Shooting slide actually in sixth grade, something, you have to step on the pedal, you go back out, and reel it off.
Okay.
I remember when I was a kid. My move was always like 4 sides. Really bad. And you had to like shoot off the screen to reload.
Yeah. My brother was only going to House of the Dead.
That was the one. It was always difficult to deal for it to like throw at you. But it's like very outside for it to be going. Like right before you're gonna go, just make this like.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, so classics. I don't want to like those games. Do they still make like new arcade games? I'm sorry. I'm just not saying that.
I mean, they kind of do, I mean, like, it's like a franchise, so like Garrett so far.
Right.
That's only so everything else is like, remodel.
Yeah, exactly. More like collections of combinations of classic games. Favorite type of cabinet was like there's a Namco anthology which has like a ton of arcade classic games on it. Like one of my favorites was called Rolling Thunder. It's a really fun game, but it has fun. That's great music too.
I remember enjoying yeah, it was like a boat racing game. You had like the boat throttle right there and then like the boost button once you got like enough power.
Like the old pizza hut, so like the old days, double days, they got their like.
There used to be a place in Houston on one of the roads around. And they had like phones about.
Yeah, I know we talked about.
I think they had I think it's since it's died. Years ago.
They had one like the old. This was like bad. The best like place, when you have like at nighttime, it looks exactly like that. And so like it wasn't just like no big hole thing, it was like whole team. So it's massive.
Okay. Let's start our system design. Okay. In the last assignment, so you need to just like draw the class diagram, and later we do learn something about the use diagram and also the ER diagram. So these two, so just like more practice, then draw these two. Based on we discussed about Spotify, so I really just like give you some actor. So the other question will be like this. Okay, if I already give you the possible actors, so you can look at here, and then maybe I have 4 right here. So you need to based on this actor. So they are all possible use case. You feel free if you're thinking there's some extra. So I give us just like some basic. That's what you need to draw. So you feel free to add more use case because when you need to think. Because maybe in the exam, if I ask you like if you need to draw by yourself or like where possible, then you need to think about some extra use case. Okay, so what do you need to do? Just like draw the use case as a first part. So just one. All the diagram include all the users. Try to remember we will if they are duplicate, then just like pointing to the same one. Okay, and then next one is the ER diagram. So for the ER diagram, you don't have to make it really complicated, just like the class diagram. So if you remember, we draw the rectangle, and those the rectangle, I already gave you all the attributes. So if you remember the like the bubble, the brainstorm, that one, the shape. So just draw all those one and underline the primary key. So that's it. So just like put the their relationship, the diamond shape. So all these like can create like this, and then what's their a relationship, and draw the ER diagram. So maybe if we have the cardinality, so remember to put the cardinality. Okay, so that's what we need to do. And in case, just like the one, because it really depends on your design. Like I already give you the actors or like the entirety. Then are we going to apply any generalization? If you remember from the PowerPoint, like we also discussed in the lab. So that way we talk about that. If you need to break down them into generalization, then try to draw it. Okay. That's what you need to do. So just make sure, and then if you need to apply, so just draw the mainly is two diagram. Also try to describe. Okay. So because all the diagram, just put a one sentence or two sentence, but describe. Like we always say put the reverse, like a user can create a playlist and then like one or more. So it's a simple, just like describe. Of course, I can read it. I understood, but like for the documents, we always try to have a diagram and then with one sentence or two sentences. Okay, the list can be created by user, and we as I like create multiple playlists. So just putting like this is okay. Okay, so you can reuse this one. So just like letting me know, you will know how to like put this sentence match with your diagram. Sometimes you say I put a one to many, but when you put it, okay, I can put the it's a one to one. Okay, so just like make sense and correct sentence, and that's it. And we have only two diagrams for this situation. And if you want, you can refer to the like some lab or like for extra if you want to add more use case. Okay, works. Okay. So any question about the assignment?
Yeah, what do you recommend making the diagram with? Like, is there like an easy?
The one I'm using as example, I use a draw IO. So it's a flow chart. So if you know something else, yes, yeah.
Probably was pretty fun. Like, maybe I just use this in the
Okay, I see. Complicated. I need to learn. Yeah, because to me, yeah, because I just like you just need to put a diagram right here and then like put a shape. If you are just do a ER, I can just do like this. And then because I point to the angle right here, so you can point the arrow. Maybe no here. Okay. Maybe if you want because it comes to arrow, just add it and remove the arrow. Okay, change it and then okay like this, and then just put the name. Let's say user, and then maybe the playlist, and then put the word like create. Okay, and then if you want, you can add the text for the cardinality. One to many also, like we always put the range with the minimum. So for the user, they can create is a many to maybe I can put it as a at least minimum is 0. I don't have to create any playlist, but I can create as many as what I want. Okay, so it's the 0 to M, and then another one right here. Okay, right here. And how about the playlist? So the playlist at least should be created by one user, right? So it's impossible, like as what we discussed before. So playlist should be at least have some user to create. And then how many can it belongs to multiple users? No, so it will be one to many. So it's 1 to 1. So the range is 1 1, and then playlist right here. So when you're pointing the location, if you learn from database to, so it's like we're always looking from this side. User, so I have to cover on my left. So user, we create at least like no or like as many will be playlist, and then playlist will be created by one and only one user. Yeah, like this. So just remember to put it correctly for this one. So once you put all this kind of done, the ER type, okay. Okay, for this one. Okay. I think it's easy, right? So I already finished one of it. And just remember, you can like print screen or like chop it and then type it with one sentence to describe what's the relation of this one. Just kind of follow the format like this. Like the user can create multiple playlists can created by one user like this. Have a 2 sentence to describe this diagram. Okay, the thing's okay. Okay, the thing is dry or is difficult, or do you have any problem to?
I guess like, when we're doing the class diagram, I
Mhm.
didn't understand the entire class diagram. I
Ah,
did like the full fledged, like, ER diagram, like the variables and the functions.
okay. Yes, class diagram is more difficult. Actually, I don't know why they test like the structure like this. Supposedly, you should learn ER diagram first. Start with the ER, because use case and then the class diagram. But because this one is system design, I just assume you should know everything about the database. Because when you learn database, you should know the ER diagram, use case diagram, and also the class diagram, these 3 diagrams. Why not just apply but when you learn database, just like some fundamental like components. But why not how can you combine everything together? What do you learn together? So suppose the sequence shouldn't be matter, but yes, class diagram is slightly complicated because for ER, I can omit certain things. I don't have to really care about what the attributes include. I just give you some. Yeah. But for class, it always working with the details, actual details, like how many attributes you need, then you should put all this in your class diagram. And then maybe like what's the primary key, like which one pointing to which one. When you have many relationship, and remember to create a new table, like new one, and then like break it down with like sometimes we call it transaction table. So that's what you need to do. Okay, so this one is the assignment. Okay, and then let's go back to our lecture time. Yeah, so this one will cover was like something about system design activities, and then control and security lecture things. So we will see. So analysis, so we will say that what is required, and then we need to tell that how it configure and construct. That's how it works. And before we just cover the like previous chapters, like how we do the analysis. So we want to know the requirements, and then based on those requirements with different diagram. Then how can we really like move on to the actual implementation? And system design is about analysis, provide the starting point of design, and then design provide the starting point for implementation. And this part is called analysis. And then design result are documents to coordinate the work. So when we work on the implementation, we always refer to the document. So something put on the document, we have to do it. Those didn't put on the document, we never do it. Okay. So when the user complain about why it didn't implement, say, you didn't mention in the document, or like you decided. So in the industry, so after we finish the interview, make a questionnaire, and then we say, if you remember, we are asking for signature, right? Confirmation signature. That's how important, because once we list all the requirements, like you did a questionnaire and then talk with your customer, and they will give you once they sign the contract, or like we say the contract or document, that means they say, okay, that's what I need. And based on what I need, that's what you need to implement. Okay. So if later they say, okay, why you didn't provide this function? They say, okay, you didn't say, you didn't put it in my document. So that's why, that's what you agree. So contract, okay, that's what we call a contract, okay. So here's like the objective of design is define, organize, and structure of the components. Let's say final solution to have like the blueprint of the construction. So far, we stay like our first few weeks, just stay with always the analysis, like understand specifics, like the requirements, and then we put everything to the document. So when the design objective, like describe the details, how the new system will be implemented. So most of that we really rely on ER diagram, use class, and most important is the class diagram. Because the class diagram will be our database, and the database will affect our like API server or the structure. Okay. So after we like design all the modules and document, then we will really move on to the implementation. Okay, so when we working as a team, maybe for your team, you will assign certain tasks. So those tasks we will like look at the document, just like really similar. So later, if I ask you the list like this, I have those like use case, those user, and all this information. So you just based on the information I provide to you. Maybe for some function, it's like, okay, I have certain parameter. What's the return type? What's the return value? Is an array, is a single value, is a final result, all this, okay. Or you will have some like intermediate function. That means that one is not your final output, but you will need to call this function, help you to do some calculation, and then return it to another function, okay, to process. Then we need to declare this one. So design is a model like building activities, and then formally of project, we dedicate the type, complexity, depth of model. So you see, the agile integration project typically build with fewer like modules, but we need to have a model, still need to create a model. We never jump to the program directly without design. So we always follow the design. If you know that like we have some like requirements models like customer orders, is a domain model. So that one we cover pretty quick. And then use case diagram, this will say activity diagrams we use. And then all this diagram will go to the design model. So based on, okay, so what are the components like? What server? Do we have a internet server, application server? That's like maybe API, data server, web server. So what do we need? And then the deployment. So what are the computer? So are we only hosting one server and then put API server, web server together, or we need to make a separate? If we are multinational company, like we have multi-location. Let's say we are serving for in the States, we have maybe the West Coast, East Coast, then we need to create two server. And we using, if let's say we are using Nginx, and we need to do the forwarding proxy, so all these things. And also the design, the class diagram, then how can we implement the database? And also, if you remember, we have the interaction diagram. So the one, the loop, so the one, and then the state, the machine. Okay, start from. So when we design the activities, like we just correspond to the components of new system. So environment, application, UI, database. Also, we have some like class method. That means those functions. And we have the phase right here. So just say start with the first one, identify and then plan, monitor, discover, understand the details. And then when we design a system components, always like build, text, integrate. So always remember when we maybe you learn programming, you will feel free like I can put everything together. Then we need to learning or have a habit like try to create small function. We say create methods. We try to break down everything as a component and thinking like, can they reuse? Are they reusable? Okay. And that's what we're trying to do. And then after we build all the components, then we need to like integrate, like put them together. Okay. And then we just complete the system text and then deploy. So upload. If you're learning, let's say we're taking web programming as an example. So we try to build the web page, like every page have a single JS file, right? And then maybe we have a function is, let's say we have a fetch data. For the fetch, maybe I only create one function, but every time I will pass a parameter. So let's say I want to get the item, then I pass the path. Like if you know the API, the /API, get item, then I will get item. So I pass a parameter, it's called get item. But if I want to, let's say I want to get user profile, so I pass get user profile. That means I can reuse this fetch data function so many times. So I don't have to like say, okay, if I want to get the user data, then I implement once. Even copy and paste is not that good. It's easy, I just copy and paste, but you increase the file size. the system, because you need to like once you need to create one more function, it will occupy the main memory space. But actually, it's just kind of like duplicate and just like I said, we didn't, so just like try not to do it in this way. We use the function, just think about it when we design, okay. And we can ask some questions like for all these like activities. So we're thinking like when we need to, let's say we need to describe the environment. So how will the system interact, and then with other system and with some existing technology. But in reality, true, sometimes we are for some startup or something, okay, we can start from scratch, like everything's new, so easy. But sometimes like what we need to do is that based on existing system, this is always like robust, like it also is like time consuming. Maybe for old style, some old source code, they didn't expect for certain function. And then instead of I ask you to create a new one, they say, okay, can you base on the existing one? Especially for organization, they say, this one is working fine, it's working okay. Then how can you like let you, I don't want to remove the old one, but I want to let you integrate with the existing one. So we need to think, okay, how can we use it? Okay, and also for the application components, let's say what the key part of information system, or how will they interact with the system is deployed, all this, and then the UI. So how the user interact with the system. So where's the button? How can you show all those information? Also the database. So how will the data capture at the same? So are they structured, unstructured, or like is the hybrid? It's just like combine structure and unstructured, just like what we discussed for the Uber. Some user information we save as a structure using MySQL, let's say RDMS, or we need to use unstructured NoSQL, MongoDB for some like write history. Then we need to think about it. When we have two different types, then we should have because if you want to have an idea, for some of you working on web program, you know we have a MongoDB connect to the database. Then how we implement our API server, because we need to connect to two different the ports, right? So one is for MongoDB, one's the maybe MySQL. Then we have different SQL, the query, SQL query. So all this we need to design. Then what is the internal structure of each application components will be ensure efficiently like construct and also rapid development, reliable operation. So we can ask, okay. So we have two key elements for the environment. So once they communicate with external system, so message format, web network, communication protocol, security method, error detection, recover. So what's this talking? Oh, even we implement the API server or the web programming, then you need to or like the client mobile. We can say it's an external system, maybe. Then we need to know, okay, so what is the parameter? So let's say I want to get the item. So, or like I want to log in. I want to design, I want to log in the account. Okay, it's pretty common, right, everyone? So what information do you need to submit or post to log in? Maybe you say, I will need to pass the username, email, password, or I would accept, because if you remember, we discussed from the one time I asked, okay, I can log in using the username or email. Then what's the parameter? Like, how can we handle it? So we need to read it and then accepting. Okay, if I detect that one is the username, then I can execute. Okay, I will using fun. If that one's a MongoDB, it's like unstructured, it's easy to search. I just like match it. If I can get it, I return it. But if we are using the RD, relational database, then we need to really exactly fit the attribute names, right? Then we need to really check, okay, what parameter did they pass it to it? And then when I return this message, let's say I already have a product list. I return a port list. Then what's the format? Does it come, I return as an array, and that's the JSON array. So it's an object array, right? So if we don't declare well, then maybe when I pass to you, I don't know, then I couldn't handle it. Okay, so here's the issue. And then are we using some security method like encryption? Let's say I pass my password. So which password method are we using encryption? So old style, maybe you are using MD5, or are we using a new one like SHA, or when you have a connection, are we using some like public key? So all this we need to consider. Okay. Also like conforming to the existing technology architecture. So we need to know. So we will discuss this like more details. So there should be all the commercial well-defined unit of software performing some functions. Also, we need to involve how the package components include. Okay, what's the scope, size? Okay, functions, boundary interface, all these things. And the programming language. So right now when we try to develop, it may be, so okay, we are using same language. No, or you never know, maybe some server they're running using Python to as a server, or for some IoT application like service, they are using Python to execute. So how can you working with other language? Okay. And build or buy. So I think accepting the version available to purchase. So this really thing. So for right here, you see a model to define the application components. You see right here. So the view layer, so what's the Windows working research, and then domain layer, so the car handler, and then online car items, we'll put them right here. And data access is like, okay, so this is all data. So here's called a package diagram. And then we pass it to the called the components diagram. So the components you see right here. Let me see. You see the domain layer. So all the domains, the CGI, the application server right here, and then it connect to the database. And then right here, maybe we have the server was maybe the internet server, maybe API, web server we're using, depends on which one. And then we connect with the internet. And when physically we have the deployment, so you will see, okay, we maybe from the view layer will be some kind desktop, cell phone, maybe with some printer. Okay, so when we connect to a domain layer, so will be application server, connect to a data layer will be the database server. So all these things is a whole picture. Because when you learn system design analysis, we need to like analysis part will be like we get the requirement. But when design, that means we need to get the whole picture. We are learning, okay, so we need to really deploy a project, like let one application launch, we can use. Then like every part. So in this one, you need to like have a whole picture how it works. So to a user, we say UI is the system. That's true. They just like when you to the public, so everyone see, they will think, okay, the system. You say, okay, the UI is the system. So this is one of my experience. Okay, before I have a project, just like building a website for an auditing company. Okay, so they say, I told them, what's the progress? I say, okay, it's almost 80% done. Okay, when they look at the website, why it just look like ugly? Okay, so just like what you see, like what you build right now website. Okay, you have some content, say you say 80%, but I didn't think it's 80. Okay, but I said 80 is the whole system, because whole system including the database, API server, and the web. Okay, so it's a 80 thing, it works. I can get the data, I can return the data, I can post the data to server, right? Suppose it's, to me, it's 80%. But to them, they only see the UI. They only care, is this layout is good? What's the color? This icon is too big, it's too small. So when they look at it, so they don't think that way. So for them, you know, to the user, they care more about the UI, or sometimes they care about the UX. So they will have a large impact. So this one always include like both analysis and design tasks. So we need to know what's the users, so they will improve a lot. Also, the current needs require multiple user interface, so maybe we have multiple devices. So right now it's pretty common. Maybe when people rely on the cell phone, they will check it more. So we need to consider, okay, when we implement, some websites, they change the layout, right? So we detect, okay, so this one is the tablet, cell phone, or like if desktop, then I will try to make the layout like wider, okay. So based on all these devices, then we'll change it. And here's the UI layout. So if you want to design part of it like the UI, for a system design, you need to show, okay, so what's the layout, and then click on this one, and what the function they need to do. So this one pretty similar to the sequence, like, so when we click on it, so if you still remember in the last lecture, so you see we have the loop, event, if else, that one. So it's kind of similar. So like based on that this diagram, we will create the UI. Okay. Of course for the document, maybe I don't care really which sequence you did, right? So but like when we think about like normal way, we always start with the diagram. So we based on the requirements, then we'll create the UI based on this one, like which button we click on it. Okay. And when we design the database, just like we usually store everything on the database. This one kind of like outdated. We just talked about the RD, but right now we were working with the NoSQL, so we need to convert the data model to a versional database. So also requires the addressing like of many other technical issues. Okay, securities, throughput or response time. Some if you look at something in the lab, like on Tuesday, we'll talk about the CDN caching database. We have the leader follower. So all this is helping us to improve the efficiency all the time. So why we need to caching? If some like regular retrieve data or something, let's say the product information, they were like barely updated. So I can save it as a caching, so I can get it faster. So this one is more like we think about response time. Also security, if we handle with user login, like something with the user account, maybe personal information, credit card, pass it to the gateway. When we integrate with the payment, let's say we integrate with the payment, we are actually using the, let's say we using PayPal. PayPal will have a, that gateway can help you handle credit card. Or maybe you can define the type of like passing, maybe the using PayPal account or like credit cards, then you can choose. So based on the cake, then you need to like switching like which parameter. So when you integrate with, if you remember the requirement, we say we're working with the other third parties interface, right? So we need to look at their document too. Okay, so if you are trying to build an online shop, and then they need to accept the payment, then we need to look at the PayPal's, or like if you want to integrate with the MasterCard, Visa card, they have their own payment gateway, or other like on banking service. Then we need to check their documents. So okay, how can we connect with them? So. And like some of the information we need to store after complete transaction, they will return the confirmation ID. So because for that transaction, let's say PayPal will store it, then they will return a message like confirmation ID. Then you also need to save to your own database. And you need to know. Then we need to think. And then here we define the tables. So the schema. So just quickly go through. So when you learn database. So here's like what the attributes, the data types, we call the metadata, and we need to define what's the primary key, and then we do the indexing. So here, like now, not now, okay. And then we have one called the AKA detailed design. So these are software classes and method. So the model like building activity, including design class diagram, sequence diagram, state machine diagram. So right here. So here what attribute of the method like control sales handler, and then their methods, and then let's say the inventory items. So all the You see all those like column names and then with their the data type. So right here, also their functions. That's what you need to draw. And then system control and security. So we have integrity control. So just make sure the input output data and program integrity. When we talk about the CIA. And security control will control the protect our access of the from the twist. So we will know like what the possible threat. Threat is the risk. Like if we didn't set the permission, so that one's the threat. And then for the tricks, like the action, how we actually assess it. So they should know. And internal and external was like the firewall, all these things. So when we putting everything together, like the integrity and security control. So we have the right here, all the devices we're using, like controlling and then access to the internet. Maybe we'll pass to some like, let's say firewall, and then maybe we will access to some server application server, and then how can we connect to the database server. So so when we design an integrity control, then we will integrate with the application program and then the DBMS. Okay, and mainly we try to like only appropriate and correct business transaction are accepted, and also ensure transaction record and process correctly, and try to protect and safeguard the assets such as the database. So here's the idea, try to fulfill. So when we talk about the input control, so try to prevent the invaded or like an erroneous data from entering the system. So we check the input. Okay. In cybersecurity, you will see we can able to do some injection, like sometimes single injection or like passing data. So how can we make sure sometimes it's like it doesn't match with the data type, or sometimes it like we say we have some overflow or like the range. So we also need to check, and then completeness control. So one is like called a value limit control, it's range, and then completeness control. So and ensure like the data has been entered. So when we have a form, you will see sometimes we have the one with the red extra, the star. So it's like you must input, right? So for some like require information, so that one will match with your database. When you try to create a user profile, you will ask it like, please input your first name, last name, address. Normally, we have a second address. And second address, we never put a star or not in red in color. It's optional. That means when you design the your database, or like you handle the data as a parameter for your API server, you will say, okay, I may be also passing the address to, like in the JSON file inside the payload, okay, to the API server. When I get it, but it's possible to be null. Okay, if it's null, sometimes like when you try to doing the notation, the objects like dot notation, then it will be null. Maybe it causes some error, right? So we need to handle those like it may be null value. Okay, so all these things we need to know. Like also the data validation control, so make sure they are the data value they're correct. So this I say like if that one is an integer, we make sure it's not the text. Or if we want to like to prevent the data is not correct, then we maybe like first we take like accept it as a string first, and then we just like convert to a number. We can like convert to a number successfully, then it's correct. If no, then we'll just pop up error message. So it's not like integer, or it's not a number. Yeah, because for user, we need to know, like for developer, we specifically, I mean, okay, this is an integer, it's a full, it's maybe for other language, it may be double like this. But to user, they don't know what's full, what's double. They have no idea. So you need to pop out correct message. Let's say, please input a number, or like you need to input some with decimal, like correct to 2 decimal, 3 decimal. Okay. And then the few combination control. So try to ensure data is correct based on the relationship between the fields. Okay. So sometimes if we have something working together, just make sure they're correct. And then next one is the output control. So ensure the output arrives at a proper destination, authorized, and it's like accurate in current and compete. So let's say for physical access to a printer and display device right here, discard the data and protect from the dumpster dividing, and then labels printer or like in electron output to correct identify source of data. So all this possible. And then one more keep going will be like redundancy, backup, and recovery. So that's what we always do. For security, risk is always over there. We never able to avoid some, we call it disaster. Database, nothing we can guarantee always like working fine. Maybe some like crash. If you know, like for the process, if you know about the operating system, like even a driver, the database. So it's possible that we thinking next stage is correct, like it's available to work, but it's not working like that. So if something like happened, the crash, we lost the data, then we need to know, okay, we need to be careful. How can we to do the backup and then to recover soon? Okay. And for the redundancy, is like if we need to do a backup, or like sometimes if we have like 3 servers and then one is done, then how can we make sure that remaining 2 can provide the service as usual? Okay, that means we need to make sure some data will be like safe in other 2 servers. Then what's the backup frequency, or like how often you need to copy from server A to B and C copy them to A and C copy the data to server A and B, like this. So make it like we have redundancy. So sometimes we for backup and security recovery, we can't avoid the redundancy, but try to keep it as a minimum. Okay, so it's enough. So one is the on-site versus off-site copies, and then for prevention. So we always have triangle right here, opportunity, like motive, and the version station. So right here. So all here always like try to prevent some internal fault or like the embarrassment or loss. So we'll be like this. And for the risk, so what is the possible factors and techniques? So separation of duty. So we need to know, okay, when we design the system, try to those like access, like cops to have a limited access to related records, ensure no one has a sufficient system access to commit and cover from the form. So this one we just like cover like 5 permission that who can access it, which could allow to do that. And we need to like, let's say we need to record all the transaction, change access state. Sometimes we will try to add a few like when it's a created time, updated time, or like every time we record, we create as a new record. So it's the same. So we can trace back like every time when you modify. Okay. So we save like all the steps, what you did. So instead of an override, we just like create a new one. So when we design system, we need to think, okay, if we need to allow like recover to a certain stage, or like I want to trace back in this state, the data maybe for that one is like insert as a mistake. Then maybe we also save who insert this record. So we need to save all this like data. Then we can trace, okay, who input the wrong mistake, or like is it being hacked, or like just human mistake. So we can able to see. So monitoring. So just a regular and system like procedure to review the records and logs. So we always rely on the logs. So maybe we have some unusual transaction, so we can trace. And then access control. So here just like limit the physical, adjust the variable access. So inventories periodically reconcile the physical access and security. So this one, the security feature. So all the individual system, we need to support it also with the infrastructure, and try to do like, we say the auditing just like review and test the security features frequently. And maybe sometimes they will ask the outside consultants, like some hacker attacker to test it. Okay, if we any bad door. For the security control, we just like try to protect all the access against the external threats. So that's why we need to clarify, okay, what are the possible threats? And then based on threat, that means there's some tricks to do it. So that's it. and try to protect and maintain a stable functional operation in 24/14. Especially everything on the cloud right now. So you see, we barely stop the server. We barely stop any service. So they're all available. And if they do have some maintenance, like they will restart under like our midnight. So for technical things, like if you do receive some email, say, okay, our mobile app or service will have a maintenance, then we will stop for like 4 hours. But normally they do it in midnight. So they will choose the time, not like people that not with their frequent use. Okay, and then we try to protect the information transition during the transmission across. So we do have lots of encryption, like using a key and then validate it, some checksum. That's how we use. And we talk about access control. We will limit the person ability. Also, sometimes the authorization. We have like multi-factors to list it, and access control is like what's that with it? User and authorization. So those users like in the list, then their permission. Also, we can set different levels. What can be accessed? But just the user, or like some unauthorized user, then they're not. But just or some privileged user. So they're maintained in the list of the system. So they say. So we will see all these data possible. So we need to consider also design system. So why we need to know those user, because we based on those user account, maybe they have user account, then we need to set the right permissions to access. If you know the permission, file permission, that's how we apply. Okay, maybe for admin, they will create the file, they're able to rewrite, but for some user, they only allowed to read it or execute it. So that's how we do. And data encryption. For encryption, we including in multiple layers. So first, like for the data itself, so we store also like for transmission. From transmitting, so we have different type, like adding the secret key, like private key, public key, and also the data itself with encryption. And for encryption, we will including like decryption to just like convert the encrypted data back to original format, the readable. And we have different type of encryption algorithm. So they are kind of like math algorithm to encrypt it. Also, we have the key encryption key, so just a long data string. So allow same algorithm to produce a unique encryption. That's how we need to apply. We've got the symmetric key encryption. So this one is like allow user using the same key to encrypt and decrypt. But when we talk about the same key, that means we have a risk. So it's not secure enough. So even we look at it, because when we're doing this, is the things that we will pass the key, right, with you. So in case I stole the key, then I will able to decrypt it. So it's like, okay, if you like, I do encrypt it, but also I have to pass the key to you, send the key to you. So once I'm a middleman attacker, I stole your key, that means I also able to decrypt it. So it's meaningless. So that's why it comes out one thing called a asymmetric key encryption. So this one is pretty similar to the is called the AKA public key or the RSA, the encryption. If you remember, we tried to build some of you know the AWS, I say try to download the SS key. So instead of using password, that was your public key. So public key, once you download it, you're using it, you're not sharing by others. So it will increase the security level so we can encrypt it. Okay. Of course, for the key, we will have some combination. Actually, we can do it like using the symmetric and then also asymmetric key combination. So I can one key for encrypt decryption. Also, I can use the public key to one more time to send the message. So we have two ways. It's kind of called a hybrid. So combine them together. And we have something called the digital signature and certificate. So digital signature will be like using where the document encrypt using a private key. And when we just say just using it, but in the reverse. So when the documents encrypt with a private key, but they can only decrypt using correct public key. That's what we're doing. And then we have the digital certificate. So the organization names and public is encrypted and certified by authorization third party. This what we know, the SSL. If you see a HTTPS, this one is coming. Of course, we can create our own SSL. We don't have to purchase it. The one I like in other classes called the Let's Encrypt. But that one is like we do have encryption, but that one it didn't provide a registered company. If you are some company, let's say the school, Google, Amazon, you will see they are using HTTPS. That one comes with the SSL, the certificate. So they really register. So they know which company exactly who they are. This share will have all their company information. So it's more like reliable and trustable. Okay. And then secure the transaction. So the one we say is called the SSL. So SSL we use is the standard set of the protocol, like authorization, also authorization. And then we have the called the TSL. TSL is the one we just try to do it on the transport layer security. So well, another one called the IP security, IPsec. IPsec is more like low level transmission protocol. If you see the VPN we do like one of encryption is using the IPsec. Okay, and HTTPS. So I think everyone maybe pretty familiar with this one. And so far will be the this one for the system design. So mainly we just like looking for the design models. And because in this one I kind of like didn't mention about the UI. So actually part of it we will talk about the user interface. So interface for a system design, just thinking getting requirement and then provide function. Just try to when you work on the we don't really say compare with other course, the UI is more likely depends on the graph, the case we put the requirements. Go back to this one. So it's like based on the maybe the system sequence diagram, then we will create. But for the system design, we are not criticized like how it looks like, but it's like those user interface provide all the request function to the user. Okay, so we are not criticizing how does it looks pretty or like is it convenient, but it fulfilled all the requirements. Yeah, but about the UX, it will be another topic of other program. Okay. See if we can find enough time to cover. So it's the time. So that's it for today. So it's almost done. So that's it for today's class. Good.